The traditional primary school timetable needs improving. You might say, well, why? What's wrong with it? It works, it helps the teacher have a structured day. But there are some flaws with it that actually affect the learning of the individual child. For example, typically in a timetable, the classes are taught as a whole. What happens if a child misses a day, 2, 3, and in some cases, up to a few weeks of school? It's hard for that child to fit back in based on our traditional primary school timetable. Additionally, often in our traditional timetable in the Caribbean, we tend to relegate the arts and the crafts to a Friday afternoon, and it almost seems like an afterthought of a subject, not very important to the child's development. Additionally, in a typical primary school classroom, with the timetable as it's structured, we tend to put the core skills, the math, the literacy block with the grammar, the vocabulary, the spelling, we tend to put them earlier on in the day when the children have that brain power. But what sometimes happens is that that work might drag on into the afternoon. So a lot of teachers find themselves having to try to squeeze in the so-called less critical subjects like science and social studies whenever we can, because it tends to fall off the timetable if the work from the morning drags on into the afternoon. Another problem with our traditional primary school timetable is that usually, because of the way the subjects are structured, most of the day is spent teaching the whole class. So what the teacher tends to do subconsciously is try to keep all the children together, because we have to get to the next subject. So what sometimes happens is children who finish very quickly get bored. They find themselves having to wait on those who are straggling behind. And then there are some children who never quite finish the work in time. So what happens is you see a lot of places incomplete on their books, or the work is sent home as extra work to finish. And those children tend to be slower even with homework. So therefore, they never finish. They have their homework, plus they have the work that they didn't finish before the teacher had to move on to the new topic. So they get piles and piles of extra homework or work that's just never completed. And then let's not talk about the fact that the timetable structures it where you might have a 30-minute lesson, a 45-minute lesson, a 15-minute lesson. But some children know the topic already, and they spend their day basically doing topics they know already, and it kind of slows down their learning. But also, some children are not ready for the concept, but it's on the timetable, it has to be done. And so those children are in the class and they might parrot what others say if they have to repeat answers, or they just kind of zone out or get frustrated because the concept's they're not ready for it. So I do know teachers have their concepts they have to teach, but there is another way. Actually, have you ever seen a timetable that looks like this one? It's one I developed called FlexiLearn. It's a FlexiLearn timetable. I'll explain what it is, how it works, and actually what's unique with this one. Rather than being from the perspective of the teacher and her plan for the day, it actually takes learning from the perspective of the child. And don't get me wrong, it actually makes the teacher's job that much easier.